Hello, friends and listeners. In today's episode, please welcome our guest, Mr. Jake Baskin. Jake is the Executive Director of the Computer Science Teachers Association, the world's leading association for K-12 computer science teachers. He is a former high school computer science teacher, department chair, and professional development provider with the Chicago Public Schools. As a teacher, he focused on increasing access to computing for underrepresented groups and more than double female enrollment in introductory computer science classes. Prior to joining CSTA, he was a director of state government affairs for code.org, where he worked with educators and policymakers to advocate for policies that expand access to high-quality computer science education with State Department of Education and governors' offices across the country. In his work at code.org, he helped to build a nationwide network of more than 40 regional partners that worked with over 100 school districts in the U.S. to implement comprehensive computer science programs and provide professional learning for teachers. Jake, welcome. We are very excited to have you on our show. Let's talk computer science.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to get to chat about education.
So, Jake, can you tell me a little bit about CSTA organization and your role at CSTA?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the executive director here at CSTA and have been here for coming up on 3 years very shortly, and it's been a fun and wild ride at the organization. We are the world's largest association for K-12 computer science teachers, and we are focused on supporting and promoting and advancing equitable computer science education. As an organization, we do that in 3 key ways. First, and I think most important, we build strong local communities for computer science teachers. There are over 90 CSTA chapters across North America, and those chapters provide the computer science department that many teachers don't have as the only computer science teacher in their school or district. We also, as an organization, work to provide independent guidance for teachers so that we can help folks understand what it means to teach computer science and identify opportunities to grow in the field. And then last, we really focus on providing ongoing professional learning for computer science teachers. We know that teaching is a craft. It's something that you get better at over time, and we want to provide engaging professional learning opportunities that focus on real-world examples where teachers are sharing what's working in their classroom and highlighting that and expanding that with their peers.
Perfect. And your role?
I'm the executive director at CSTA. Came on board about 3 years ago, and we've been having a lot of fun growing the organization and focusing on how we can make sure that teachers have an outstanding experience. I was first involved in CSTA 10 years ago now as a classroom computer science teacher, and my local chapter, the Chicago CSTA, really changed my life. It's how I met folks that led to all of those other things you talked about in my biography, and I want to make sure that every new computer science teacher can have that same experience or a better one.
Right, yeah, this is very needed because, unlike math or English teachers, there's probably one computer science teacher per school, and they need an opportunity to talk to other computer science teachers, share ideas. Yeah, this is so perfect. Thank you so much for doing this. Can you briefly tell us about the state of computer science K-12 education across the U.S.?
Yeah,
and in Illinois specifically, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, so happy to talk about the state of CS education across the U.S. It has been a really interesting and exciting last sort of 5 to 7 years, really, in computer science education, as there's been so much momentum and attention around the importance of CS education and helping to grow it. But the truth is, we still have a long ways to go. CSTA co-authored a report with the Expanding Computing Education Pathways Alliance, ESEP, and Code.org on the state of CS education policy that came out this past fall, where we reported out across all 50 states, just 47% of high schools teach at least one foundational computer science course. That means a majority of schools still aren't teaching any computer science. That number has gone up every year for the past few years as we've done that report, but it also tells us that there's a long way to go. And when we dig in even more deeply, we see that who has access to those courses is not distributed equally. We know that students from Title I schools where more students qualify for free and reduced price meals, are less likely to have computer science classes. And then within schools that offer CS, the makeup of those classes still doesn't match the overall makeup of the school. And we see that women are underrepresented and students of color are marginalized from the classes.
Yes. And why do you think that is, and can we address that? Like Title I school, girls.
Yeah, it's a big challenge, and I think a lot of it comes from the way that computer science really is a brand new subject that's being brought to so many schools, and that means that we are often bumping into the structures that have been in place for over 100 years now in what the educational system in the U.S. looks like and what is considered the standard for every student. And as long as we continue to talk about CS as this extra thing, this thing that's only for some students, we're going to see that the patterns that show up in other places around inequities in our country are replicated in how computer science rolls out. And that is a real challenge for us as society. I think about it in so many different ways. From an economic standpoint, the computer science fields have just exploded over the last 10 years. And the fact that we are denying students access to some of the fastest growing, highest paying jobs in the country is really incredibly unfair. I also think about it more as just what it means as a society to live and understand the world around us. We believe that every student should understand how gravity works because that's part of the world we live in. It's what we interact with every day. And I can't imagine how you would understand the world right now if you didn't understand the basics of computer science, if you couldn't understand what's happening when the internet loads a web page on your browser or how an app on your phone works. There's so much about just demystifying and engaging with the world that we need every student to understand to be a productive part of society.
Yep, I love it how you said, like, how you made the comparison. Like, we all need to know how gravity works. We all need to know how technology works in this world, and it's only increasing every day. Yeah, and it's the highest paying and highest demand.
I mean, it's an exciting field because there's so much opportunity, and I think there's so much interest in how we can expand computer science education, and what really I come back to and what draws joy for me, I think back to being a teacher with students in the classroom and what I now get to hear from our thousands of members across the country and around the world is that computer science can be so creative. There's so many opportunities to work with students in making something that is new, that is helping solve problems in their small school, their local community, or having much broader impacts. And we don't get to do that in other subjects in the same way. And surveys of students show that they love computer science classes. They often are rated as some of the most liked classes in their schools. And that, that's what I think about when I think about being a teacher in the classroom. It's seeing that aha moment and that impact that can happen for students because they learned about CS, because they were able to create in new and engaging ways.
Right, which other subject will let them see the results so quickly of their work?
Exactly, yeah.
Right, and that gives them so much confidence and satisfaction. What do you think schools need to improve and increase K-12 computer science education?
That is a big question. um, I think that there are many efforts happening right now that are supporting schools and districts in both increasing who has access to CS, who's able to succeed, who's being given the resources and supports to really engage in their classes, and build the computer science programs. From where I sit and the work that we do every day directly with teachers around the country, I can say that number one, we need to dramatically increase our investment in professional learning for computer science teachers. The way that we're rolling out CS across the US right now is by working with teachers who often have experience teaching in other subjects and supporting them in becoming computer science teachers. And that is something that is a big shift and takes a lot of courage and engagement from outstanding teachers to make that happen. And we need to support them. We need to provide the professional learning, and not just for one day or 1 week or 1 year. This is something that teachers need to grow and support throughout their career. So it's been great to see states that are investing in that, and I can't wait to see that continue, because beyond everything else, I think we need to just continue investing in supporting teachers who are doing outstanding work in incredibly challenging conditions. I mean, this year has really shown how teachers are even more amazing than we already knew.
Yep, totally. And even for a teacher with a computer science background, right? Like technology changes so fast. Like unlike math, which didn't change for a few decades, these computer science teachers, like they might have graduated 5, 6 years back. So much changed in the 5, 6 years. So they need, I totally agree. The PD part is very critical for them.
It's interesting, I'm lucky. I have a CS background and brought that into teaching computer science. And I mean, one, you're absolutely right. I think about the fact that when I graduated with a CS degree, there was very little about development for the web or apps. It was a brand new thing, and how much that has changed since then is really hard to believe. But the other thing that I think is seen day after day in how CS is being implemented across the country is that the skills that go into being an effective teacher and engaging and building relationships with your students, honestly, that's the hard part. And
I totally agree.
being able to support teachers as they take those skills that they've developed in other subjects and transfer them into CS is so important.
Said like some states are like putting in more effort into or money into PDs. So which states are leading?
Oh God, that's a great question. And of course I said that and don't have the list of states in front of me. But I know that it's been wonderful to see across the country the investment in computer science education. I think of examples that come out. Arkansas has for the last few years really been a leader in pushing computer science as part of what every student should learn, and investing in supporting their teachers to make that happen. And that shows out when we look at the state by state data and see that it's the state that has the most schools across the country offering at least one computer science class. It's actually, so I think this puts it in perspective. It's I believe it's 89% of schools in Arkansas now offer at least one computer science class. When we then talk about students, that means that only about 6% of high school students in Arkansas take one computer science class in any given year. And so that is the state that's doing the best across the U.S. Many are much lower than that. So there really is so much more that we can do when we compare that to what it looks like for math or English.
Yeah, I would have guessed some other state probably, Yeah. So
it's interesting that Arkansas, I think, was able to see this as an opportunity early on, and their governor has made it a priority. there, as we see other states roll out programs as well, it's really something that's catching on across the country. I think Virginia is another example of a state that is pushing to make, they've included computer science in their standards of learning for all students to be expected to learn now, and are deeply investing in how they can make sure that teachers are supported for that to happen.
I'm glad like states are taking and governors are taking it very seriously and doing this. Yeah, I hope like more students do this because this is not an optional skill for this generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you think the K-12 CS education is in comparison with rest of the world?
It is hard to compare. I think about how the U.S. education system is so decentralized, which I would argue is a good thing in many cases, but it makes the rollout of new programs like computer science, very different than what can happen in South Korea, for example, a place that I've had the privilege of getting to go and work with teachers there as they've rolled out computer science for working towards all students, starting with elementary school, it's very different. They're able to say, here's the new expectation, here's what we're going to teach, and we're going to work with teachers to make that happen. And our systems don't work that way.
So you have already touched a little on this, like what does CS teachers need to make their job easier? You've mentioned professional development. Is there anything else you would like to add?
I'd love for us to, successfully be able to return in-person education, finding ways to enable teachers across schools or districts to connect in the same way that we encourage math teachers or art teachers to get together and work and learn from each other in their schools or districts. It's incredibly lonely to be a computer science teacher and not have someone you can bounce ideas off of or plan lessons with. That's something at CSTA we really work hard to create those communities and want to work with school districts to make sure that teachers have the time to engage in them. I also would have to say that, and this applies to all teachers, but the more that we can just continue to support and respect teachers and treat them as the incredible professionals that they are, the better. I worry that we continue to devalue teaching as a profession, and we see that in how we pay teachers, how we support teachers, and I think it's essential across all subjects to think about how we can really treat teaching with the respect that should go with the incredible value it brings to our country.
Yep, I totally agree. Like you don't even need a CS degree, but with CS background, these teachers can easily go to the corporate and make a lot more money, and they are here teaching and educating the next generation. Yeah. They deserve a lot of respect and pay and everything. Yep.
The stories that we continue to hear from our members around the daily battles of making sure that they have the technology they need in their classroom and the support to engage in interesting projects in their schools because of funding limitations. In the COVID world, we hear stories about teachers who just know they have students who don't have internet access and are unable to connect with them, and sort of these all add into ways that we continue to sort of limit the reach of computer science education.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. I totally agree. Yeah. How can you teach computer science without internet or a computer? Yeah. So it's a fun question. If you have a magic wand to improve our US K-12 computer science education, what would you do?
That is a fun question, and I think I'd do everything I just talked about. Right, I'd pay teachers way more for the incredible work they're doing across the board. But beyond that, I think when we talk about computer science education specifically, we often have this chicken and egg problem, where we say, we want to expand computer science education, but there aren't enough teachers to continue expanding CS classes. And so if this is truly a magic wand and I can fix both of those at once, I think we would provide the professional development and put structures in place to truly create, support teachers in developing to becoming computer science teachers at an even greater scale with incredibly high quality, thinking about teacher preparation programs and professional development programs that are available for in-service teachers. And with that, talk about how we can move towards having computer science be a course that is expected of every student and built into graduation requirements and standards that aren't just optional for students, but actually are the expectation in the same way that we do for every other subject.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's very needed. It cannot be optional skill in this technology world. But how can we make it required if we do not have enough CS teachers and the infrastructure?
I know there's
As you said, it's chicken and egg problem. Yeah.
There's no magic solution that I've thought of yet, but it has to happen hand in hand. We can't just all of a sudden say, oh, it's required and not provide the resources, the development,
Right.
the funding that's going to be necessary for that to happen. It has to happen hand in hand. But I do see us moving towards a world where it starts to become a requirement. I'm very proud that here in Chicago, in the Chicago Public Schools, our board made a decision to require computer science as a graduation requirement. And that came after many years of developing and supporting programs to help schools implement those courses. And it's still a work in progress. I'm not going to pretend that everything's perfect, but those have to happen together, and then we can get to a point where we really see that it changes mindsets. It becomes something that is expected of every student. Guidance counselors start to say, "Oh no, this is for everyone. This isn't just for the advanced students or those nerdy kids who do well in math or any of that." And it changes what access looks like.
So is it already in place? Computer science is the required course for Chicago Public Schools?
It is now a part of the graduation requirements for Chicago Public Schools. I think that it officially it went into place, I think 3 or 4 years ago now, and so the first graduating class that have those requirements is I believe this year or next year.
Oh, okay, that's good for Chicago.
Yeah.
Anything else, Jake, you'd like to add? You would like our listeners to know?
Just to repeat my message of one, a huge shout out and thank you to all of the outstanding teachers that are, taking the risk and really, giving everything they have to bring computer science to their students. It is such a challenging job, and I'm so impressed by the work that they do every day to make this happen. We at CSTA are here to support you to build that community of other CS teachers that you can connect with and learn from, and even just vent to every once in a while about the challenges of every day in the classroom and what that looks like. And we would love to have you join our community and be part of the growing CS education movement in the US and worldwide.
Totally agree. A big shout out to all the CS teachers and all the teachers out there, and especially during these challenging times. Thanks a lot, Jake. Awesome talking to you.
Thanks so much for having me.